Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Lost Origin, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. For today's video, myself and Jack are going to be going over the new cards revealed from Paradigm Trigger. We have the entire set list revealed now, so this alongside Incandescent Arcana will be making up our Silver Tempest set, which is actually just a month or so away.
Yeah.
So it's creeping up pretty fast. So we're going to start down at the trainers and we'll work our way through with our first impressions of the cards. There weren't that many impactful ones that we got today, but still a few things worth discussing.
Yeah, this is our last Sword and Shield set as well.
Yeah.
It feels like we've only just had Sword and Shield, so it's kind of crazy to be done with it already. But yeah, we'll kick off with Quadstone, which I think was revealed a couple of days ago. Quadstone's a really interesting one. You may use 4 Quadstone at once, so it's a bit like the Lucky Clover card. If you use 1, he'll 10 damage from your active. If you use all 4, he'll all damage from all of your Pokemon. This is obviously like a big combo-y card, but we've seen these kind of effects before, and even healing all damage from all of your Pokemon, even in a format where we have a deck like Lost Box that puts a lot of damage counters on the board and stuff, it's just not worth trying to find space for all of these. The one card effect is way too weak to ever use it in the one card. Like you don't never want to use the one card effect anyway. So yeah, just way too weak, unfortunately. I like that they're all combining in the art though. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's that unreasonable for the effect to work if you play an Inteleon engine. It's probably not worth the effort because it could be a Sharon's Care or a Cheryl or like some other thing, and you find your way around it without committing 4 spaces and have prizing worries and all that other stuff. So
yeah. There's still plenty of decks that also one shot anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we already talked about these. You've already talked about these tablets a little bit before, but we'll go over them again. So, and also we've got new rulings that are important to note as well about these cards. So we have these item cards that grant a V-star power to V Pokemon they're attached to. And this one is an attack for 3 colorless. You can put counters on all your opponent's Pokemon V until they have 100 hit points remaining. So pretty powerful effect in some ways, because it can be just a great way to set up lots of Pokemon for later. Pretty interesting effect. Could even find its way into like a Lost Box even, which I think is kind of interesting. If you play like a random Mirage Gate and like a Drapion or something, and then you convert it into being this option as well in other matchups, and then putting yourself in Cram and Sable range for the rest of the game, it could be like a pretty big power spike.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on this sort of
effect? I don't. Obviously, Urshi's one of these decks that really evolves based on the meta, and we haven't had a long enough meta in Lost Origin to know where Urshi sits at the moment. But it's actually also another nice card for kind of an Urshi style deck, because typically they don't have a V-star power as well, and Urshi is tanky enough to theoretically be able to Star Gravity and then off the back of that rapid Gmax Rapid Flow and take 4 prizes.
Could be a checkmate,
which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it could be a checkmate against VMAXs even if you know you can tank. That's actually kind of spicy.
Again, with those decks typically play Intel as well, so it's way easier to find, which is also nice because it can be awkward. You don't want to play loads of these because obviously there are one time.
Yeah, you'll play one of if you can.
Yeah.
I think possibly this one you play 2 copies of though.
Yeah.
In Mew. Straight away we're jumping to Mew because Mew's another deck that doesn't have a V-star power. So this card will be limited to decks that don't have those V-star powers, but this can be a fantastic option to have. You attach it to one of your Vs, and then you can use the Star Alchemy ability, but note the ability is on the trainer card, not on the Pokemon. So this ability cannot get shut down by Path of the Peak, which is absolutely insane, especially for Mew, because then you can bank this on one of your Genesects or one of your Mews or whatever, knowing that if you do get hit with a Roxanne or a Marnie plus a Path, you can still Forest Seal your way out of the lock, which is absolutely monstrous already. The effect is you can search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck, so it's half a Starbirth, but it can be stapled onto so many powerful Pokemon that this is a really strong card, I think.
Yeah.
And makes a lot of like non-V-star decks extremely viable. I could foresee Mew playing up to 2 copies of this because I think
insta-playable as well.
Yeah, it's insta-playable in the worst case scenario. It's fodder 4 crams, which you'll still play, and like we play 4 crams knowing that on average you only get 2 activations. So playing 2 copies knowing that you only get 1 activation, and it's the first activation, like the first time you see this card, it's working. If you need it to, is so massive.
Yeah.
So it can be just like an extra. In the worst case scenario, it's a 5th VIP pass in your deck to actually get rolling as Mew, which is just really huge. but then has this great potential of being in the bottom 30 cards of your deck and just having this late game power spike available to you. I think it's nutty for Mew and will be strong again for basically any deck that wants to splash in Vs but doesn't have a V-star power to use.
Yeah, it's one of these cards as well. There's a lot of these random techs in Mew that often are tried and then put to the wayside because they're bad if you draw them in the first quarter or third of your deck or whatever, because you just want to see turbo cards. But it's actually one of these types of cards that you may want to save it in specific matchups for Marnie Path or Roxanne Path or whatever, but again, like you say, if it's in the first half of your deck, you just know you're going to be finding more VIP passes, or if you're playing the Fusion build, you know you're going to be finding the Elixir or the Fusion that you need to be able to pop off or anything like that. It feels really, really strong.
And Path is even in Mew now, so you could bank this Roxanne Path yourself, knowing that you can guarantee get yourself out the following turn, which is also crazy. It just makes that even more usable. And I'm still excited about this as like a Mirage Gate card in some Lost Zone decks as well, like non-Tina Lost Zone decks, where you have these tech attacking 2 prizes potentially, and then you also staple this on to give them a V-star power. So
I feel like they haven't really been explored yet as well. It's really weird analysing a new set. Like, typically it's always weird analysing a new set when you haven't had too many tournaments of the old set anyway, but because the window between these 2 sets is so short, it's really weird kind of saying this could be really good in a Lost Zone V Pokemon deck that we don't even know about yet because there just hasn't been the tournaments for it to exist yet. So, but yeah, this definitely seems like the stronger of the 2. And yeah, I think without a doubt it's going to be a Mew card, but there's huge potential for a lot of.
Even just playing like a Luminion in a deck because it gets you Colress earlier, that then gives you this at some point later. Like, obviously people target Luminion, which makes it a bit awkward, but like having that option is just a cool thing to think about. This is so flexible and really, really strong. We have Worker. It allows you to draw 3 and then discard a stadium in play. That's a mandatory effect, so the stadium has to be discarded. So in some cases, it's a draw 3 with downside, which is a little bit awkward. But if you're really thinking about trying to cheat space and you don't want your own stadiums, if you feel like there's a deck that doesn't really benefit you and doesn't have any stadium that you really necessarily want to have, or just know that there are some decks that love having specific stadiums in play, you can represent that stadium war, or even if you play a 4-off stadium and you want to guarantee that that's in play more often, you could play this effect as well and just make sure that you're constantly bouncing opponent stadiums and fighting that fight. So I think that actually are niche purposes for this. I don't necessarily think this like goes in a Mew, but I could see it going in like Arc Gudra or Arc Duraludon, those sorts of decks that love winning a stadium war.
It's just about good enough of an additional effect on a draw 3 that it might actually make a draw 3C play. It's the same as like an Avery or something, where you kind of don't really care about the first half of the card. It's actually the second half of the card that's the bit that you're playing for.
It's mostly that it just like it's fighting that stadium war whilst also just being a decent panic option if you're in a really bad spot, whereas just playing stadiums for the sake of being worried about other people's stadiums, like Reggie's play stadiums right now because they're terrified of Lost City or whatever. So having a card that could fight that fight and keep you in the game, but also just be a turn 1 card that you're happy enough to see,
pretty cool,
is interesting. So I think it'll be that niche 1/2 of in a handful of decks that really that want to min-max their stadium war. We have Brandon as well. Do you want to go for
this one? A character I did not know existed until this afternoon.
Had to educate Jack on Brandon.
Yeah, so you can only play this card when it's the last card in your hand. You get to draw a card for each bench Pokemon in play. So actually kind of comparable to the old Colress back when it was a shuffle draw for up to the amount of bench Pokemon you had in play. The downside is just way too big on this card though. Colress was bad but playable in the early turns. This is just unplayable, not only in the early turns but in a lot of hands. You have to really build your deck around a lot of ways of discarding your hand just to get the benefit from this. It is in decks that are built around that, it is going to be probably like a draw 5-6 minimum, maybe even more, but realistically the kind of deck that you're building to do that just isn't going to be good enough, especially when we have a discard draw 7. When you think about your discarding your hand essentially in the same way, you need to at least be drawing 8 cards from this to be better than a research in most instances. So unfortunately not going to be good enough.
Not worth the downsides. We also have Candice, a supporter that allows you to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal any number of water Pokemon and water energy you find them, put them into your hand, then shuffle the others back into your deck. So it's kind of like a mixture of like an interviewer's questions supporter, but also weaves in like a great ball effect, really looking for Pokemon at the same time. And you can grab all of these cards as well. So if you really have a deck full of water Pokemon and energy, you can get a lot of value from this card. But in general, the way decks are built, especially for water decks right now, where they are blessed with Bucket to search out energy, they have Irida to cherry pick Pokemon, as well as trainer cards, and they have Melanie, another great supporter that competes with Candice. There's just no real reason to want to play a card that has so much randomness stitched into it. There are times where this will just be whiffing. Even if you're hitting like water Pokemon, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're hitting the right basic or the right evolution on the right turn or whatnot. So it's just not a very strong card effect for a supporter.
You have Lance. Lance lets you search your deck for up to 3 Dragon-type Pokemon to put them into your hands, so obviously a really, really strong effect, but limited to that Dragon typing. Really interesting. We do have Regidrago in this set, which we'll talk about, which we haven't actually talked about on the channel yet, but that's kind of the one of the partners for this kind of card. Realistically, it's not going to see much play outside of that, and I think there will be ways Regidrago is built that maybe it doesn't even need Lance. It's just going to be sort of, picking your poison as to whether you want to build it like that. So I don't think it's going to be seen in much other than that, and maybe not even guaranteed in Regidrago. Could be pretty interesting in GL. We haven't really touched on GLC or anything like that.
Huge
but
for GLC.
a really nice buff to the Dragon type, which naturally have a couple of really cool cards like Double Dragon and stuff, but have that stipulation of awkward attack costs here and there. So I really like overtuning that type in GLC because dragons are always these really powerful Pokemon that have big downsides. So being able to push the archetypes in other ways than just making their numbers bigger or whatever is really cool.
Almost all of their most important card effects are stage 2s as well. So it's really great to get a lot of that rolling, get towards goodbye, and then the deck, in general starts working a lot more. So that's a big point. And we also have like Adventurous Discovery, which I guess is fairly comparable to this already in Standard. It's found places, so this could find places as well. We have Primordial Altar, a stadium card that says, once during each player's turn, that player may look at the top card of their deck, and they may discard the card if they want to. So kind of interesting effect. It's similar to like a glaciated world, but you're not blind. I guess you know what's happening, which I think is cool. We still, of course, have Oranguru, so you can have some synergy there where, VIP passes and whatnot drawn, similar to how you see it in Lost Box, towards build, where you can force a bad card before a Flower Select or a Colress. You can do a similar thing here with an Altar. I think at the moment there's a lot of very important stadiums right now that can grant a lot more value in general. But there are tons of decks that can, see extra cards in the deck, and just having that insight can allow you to push and be greedy in certain spots as well. So again, not the worst card effect. We have synergy with Guru, even things like Rotom Phone, I guess you could think about if you need specific things in your discard pile. There are things you can do there to try and make it happen, but it feels a little bit underpowered based on the other stadiums that we have in the game. It would have to be a very specific combo, I think, for this to be seeing a lot of play.
Yeah, it's not enough to... The effect isn't strong enough to be a thinning effect, because if you want it for a thinning effect, something like a Pokestop is just going to be way better because you're discarding more cards and you're grabbing more items that are usually like insta-play and stuff as well. So it doesn't really work as one of these kind of cards that just helps you out against Roxanne in the late game if you get it in early enough and just start thinning the deck down to just have good cards or whatever. It's kind of in that weird position where it only works as a really good combo. Then we have Regenerative Energy. That's the special energy of the set, which is a colorless energy, and when you play a Pokemon from your hand to evolve a V Pokemon this card is attached to, you heal 100 damage from that Pokemon. So typically there's as there usually is, there's a lot of one-shotting in the format, but we do have Lost Box right now, which is very much a deck that doesn't look to one-shot, especially in the early game or necessarily straight away. So could be a nice addition if you have a particularly bad Lost Box Mirror and you have some colorless in your attack cost. A lot of the energy acceleration we have right now is actually really specific to types, so it's going to be hard to find space for things like this. But I'm thinking exactly like Arceus's and things like that. It looks really cool for being able to have this attached to... You always need energy attachment, so having this attached to your Arceus on turn 1 to be able to evolve, still find a double turbo to be able to attack, but also kind of waste a turn of Lost Box's time, which is kind of what you need to be doing as a multi-prize deck against Lost Box, to try and make up for the fact that you're going to still have to take 6 prizes. You need them to slow down a little bit. So I don't think it's going to see huge amounts of play elsewhere, just because again, we have lots of decks that really have specific energy costs. Things like Palkia and stuff are so dedicated, even though we have seen some lists playing things like Capture and stuff. I don't think the upside of this is good enough to play in something like that. But it could be a really strong way for Arceus to kind of iron out its Lost Box matchup a bit more.
Yeah, the biggest annoyance is that you have to draw it in the right order. You know, it has to be attached before you evolve up, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, we've seen Collapse Stadium coming into decks. We've seen Hyper Potion coming into decks, and it's a similar tech spot, which is less dead in other matchups because it's at least a usable energy. So there's a small nods to it there. Let's jump back up to the top and start with some grass types. We'll be looking at all the important artwork as well, and talking about Cube and GLC if we think it's relevant. This is both some of our favourite artwork in the set. Absolutely absurd.
Do you reckon he's tripped over there?
No. He's fallen out of the tree.
Fallen out of the tree.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
We've got a Blossom. Not doing too much. Not even for the fun formats. We've got
another great art.
Amazing artwork all round. Very different artwork for the two, but both great here. Nothing standing out here. We do have an interesting Ariados. As long as this Pokemon's in play, the attacks of your opponent's V-Star cost 1 colourless more. You can't apply more than 1 string of shade ability at a time. It's a 90 hit point stage 1, which is kind of cool. It does have some reasonable searchability. And Ariados actually also has an interesting Dark type counterpart, which can offer Gust onto evolution Pokemon when you evolve the Ariados. And we still have to scoop up that in the format, so we could end up seeing like a little mini package of Ariados in some decks, like a 2-1-1 split or something. Because adding a colourless more to Arceus is massive, adding it to Palkia is massive. Like, it's actually a very, very strong effect. Adding it to Tina is very detrimental for them because they already have to get rid of so many. So it's actually a really annoying ability. I think most things probably get around this with having, things like Lost Box have the Sableye, Cram and stuff that can target this down. Arceus can go double turbo energy if they really have to and try and target it, but it definitely puts your opponent a bit out of shape and sort of forces a prize map to go through the Ariados and whatnot. Yeah. Obviously, it's not shut down by Path or anything, so it is genuinely an annoying effect. So I think it does have some tech potential. It takes a lot for me to want a stage 1 Pokemon to play that's not consistency.
That's the thing. I feel like because this is, even with the gusting of the other Ariados, that this is still 4 spots, and you've got to find a deck that has the space to be able to do that, because this doesn't feel like a part of the meta card. It feels like a tech card, like you say. So it's not a tech card; it's a tech 4 card. So it's going to have to be like the perfect storm of a deck that has the space to do this, that has some kind of inbuilt consistency. But yeah, like you say, the effect is really strong, and this kind of effect that probably won't ever do well like multiple tournaments in a row because when people are aware of it, if you can just drop an Ariados out of nowhere, I guess you manage to get some additional space back from being able to maybe cut things like a boss here and there and stuff like that, but it's still going to be difficult to find the space for.
Yeah, definitely an interesting card though, and it's one for the binder, no doubt, because there could be that time where it's just right.
Yeah.
Virizion, not doing too much.
No.
Chestnut V, I think this is a new one that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, this is actually almost an exact reprint of the old Stage 2 Chestnut from like 6 years ago, maybe even longer. Spiky Striker is the ability, as long as this is in play. Whenever your active Chestnut V is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So this actually stacks for each Chestnut, which is kind of funny. If you have 4 Chestnuts out there, taking 12 whenever they hit into you. And Touchdown actually does do some healing, and this actually has a decent amount of HP as well, so it's a pretty interesting combo. Realistically, I don't think it's going to be doing too much overall, but it's actually just on the borderline of actually having some pretty interesting stats. If you're taking something like a Cape on this, and you've got some healing from Touchdown, and all of a sudden, if you have, let's say 3 realistically, probably Chestnuts down. You're going to be essentially doing 220 a turn, which isn't terrible, but realistically, we just have stuff that we have so many ways of getting around this regardless. But also that effect is just not going to quite be good enough to realistically be doing too much more than just having fun here and there, I don't think.
Yeah, and your board has to be all Chestnut, which is an issue because you're not drawing many cards. We have a stage 1 Rapidash, 100 hit point stage 1 fire type that has the ability Heat Boost. Once during a turn, you may discard a fire from your hand. If you do, until the end of your turn, attacks from your fire Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's essentially a steam up from a Volcanion EX, but now on a stage 1 Pokemon, and we just said how it's a pretty difficult sell to try and fit stage 1s into our deck that aren't doing a whole bunch, especially not drawing us cards. So it doesn't feel like it's worthwhile putting a Rapidash in. We've seen even things like Radiant Horlucha be barely used, even though it's just a basic. I know it's limited in its application, and Rapidash does hit a wider array of Pokemon to reach one-hit KOs, but the highest hit point stuff are VMAXs, and Horlucha's basically seeing no play right now. So it's a pretty hard sell. We already have decent damage modifiers from the Inteleon line and from Zigzagoon and from all this other stuff. You know, we have Leon, and they basically none of them see play.
It's also I also think there's absolutely no partners for it as well, because being a fire type stuff. Well, being a fire type right now is just terrible because Palkia is still everywhere, and then like you say, Inteleon is still everywhere. That still counters all of the fire decks you can play that isn't even Palkia. So it just was really bad time to be a fire type, which is a shame because I think Volcanion was actually a real fan favorite card for a lot of people. Right. It was a great not only beginner deck, but a beginner deck that also was definitely competitive to the point of winning internats and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. So it's a shame. It's a shame that it's just a bad time to be a fire type right now.
It was my favourite water deck, Jack.
Yeah, it was. Deck. It was. It was one of my favourite water decks too. Very true.
For GLC, it's probably not worth it again because you're not drawing cards and you don't have constant flow of fire energy too easily. But it could be a really cool cube card, especially for for whatchamacallit, Mutant. I think
I'm gonna say there aren't too many other Rapidashes, but yeah, Mutant is. It's actually going to be probably a really strong card because a plus 30 modifier in cube is going to be pretty big.
That's massive. Nothing too much interesting going on here. Got some artwork.
Another great art
to show off. We've got the.
This is the old Charizard-esque secret attack where you get to pick something from one of your evolutions. I think the only attack worth noting is there's the immunity from Torracat and there's also reprisal from Litten. I'm pretty sure both of these are just not going to be good enough, but
you can see what they're going for, right? You're meant to Gritty Claws into reprisal, I guess is kind of the combo they're showing. That's also great artwork, by the way.
He's going for the love disc.
The love disc.
Yeah, good art. Unfortunately, he's worn out. He tried.
He's knackered.
Are they laughing at him?
They're just loving it.
We're safe now.
Yeah. Alright, we've got an Omastar V. Ancient Guidance is the attack for 1 colourless. You can search your deck for up to 2 cards that evolve from item cards with Fossil in their name and put them onto your bench. Then shuffle your deck. Spending an attack to do something like this is a bit awkward. I mean, you can do it early enough on the scene, and there is a really strong Archeops from this set, so you can go grab 2 Archons straight away. Which is cool, so it can be a build your own Archeops kind of deal, but putting a 190 hit point Pokemon in the line of fire is a real big setback. You're trying to make a huge comeback after already giving up 2 prizes essentially from this, which is terrible. It does have Tentacle Defense for 110 for water and 2 colorless. During your opponent's next turn, the defending evolution Pokemon can't attack, but they have switch effects and can get around this very easily, so it's not a real locking effect. So let's stick to Lugia if we want to play some Archeops, I think.
We've got the Glalie is this kind of standard trying to synergize with a specific supporter. Big Mouth does 260 if you played a Candace, but realistically, it's still a lot of effort, even with the multiple ways we have of accelerating and stuff like that. And similarly, Frostlass also has a bonus effect if you played a Candace. It does 110 for 1 and paralyzes. I actually think that's a bit of a stronger effect, but you can't pair this with like a Roxanne or anything, which is the real downside. So it's unfortunately just going to be again moved out of the way, and you're not going to be too fussed with the paralysis.
Yeah, we've got Radicamp that get backs fossils, but we don't really need that. We've got Keldeo. I guess their gimmick is they do more with all the other swordsmen in the game.
Unfortunately, they're all pretty bad.
Makes them useless for GLC as well.
True.
We have this another wacky combination where we have all these little dudes helping each other out, I guess is kind of the thing. It's similar to the Hitmon combo that we saw back in the day. And this time it's, for Pikachu, for Lightning you do 20, and if you're Dedenne, use Dede Short during your last turn. This does 180 more damage. So this is one of the sort of finisher ones,
this is the big payoff card.
You can see that before Dedenne you have to use Togedemaru, right?
Yes.
So you start with Togedemaru, then go Dedenne, then go Pikachu. So the finisher of your 3-turn combo It's 200 damage. That's not inspiring me, to be honest.
I think the more notable thing about Pikachu is it evolves into this Raichu, which actually has another of these really weird attacks that it reminds you of like the Drapion or whatever, where they're just really pushing away an archetype. Ambushing Spark does 40. If your opponents use their V-Star power during this game, it does 100 more, which is 140, which is exactly enough to knock out a Palkia for a colourless energy. So I think this will very naturally see some splashable play here and there. It's a very, very good counter if fit.
It's Zoroark time.
Yeah, but
finally.
I was going to say I think the biggest thing is we now have another partner for Zoroark. I don't know how many times we've said on this channel. Maybe it's time.
This time for sure.
Yeah. But it's a great stage one for Zoroark.
Also hits Lugia as well.
Yeah, way better than Electrode that it currently plays as well, because Electrode is only a 1 for 2, whereas this is a 2. This takes 2 prizes, which is really good. So it's a really interesting splashable tech. I don't think it's going to see masses of play outside of something like a Zoroark, but the fact it is splashable means people will be trying this out just as an immediate answer to a Palkia. And these kinds of cards always have to be kept in the back of the mind. As soon as Thornton was printed, these kind of cards you always have to think about, sort of any kind of combo-y potential they have here and there. Always has to be in the back of your mind. But yeah, it really irks me how they seem to really push away an archetype. It's so obvious that this is designed to. It should say ambushing Palkia rather than ambushing Spark. But yeah, it's a shame that Lugia kind of gets caught in the crossfire of this because.
No, they have Dunsparce. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
They can defend themselves.
They get to get though. One of the Pikachu clones does have sniping. Maybe it's
all going to work out.
Maybe it's the deck.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you're telling me the Togedemaru deck beats Palkia? That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
Although
nothing more.
I think Palkia can beat one prize decks by just not using its V-Star power and just turn attaching through the game.
Yes, or being an Inteleon.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, we've got the Luxray line. Some people are excited about this. Is this one worth talking about as well?
Luxray has a really cool attack. 90 to everything with a tool attached. 90 to everything on their bench and on their board with a tool attached is actually really, really cool. I don't think it's never gonna be doing huge amounts, especially given the way decks are built, because there only are 3 or 4 tools usually in decks. But it's actually a worthwhile amount of damage. The thing that hurts Luxio more is just the fact that Luxray cheats itself into play, so you're never going to be playing Luxio anyway.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, Luxray is very, very reminiscent of the old Talonflame. Explosive power lets you start this as a basic Pokemon, or as your active Pokemon, when you're setting up, so the exact same ability as Talonflame. And then Seeking Fangs, again, very similar. For a colourless energy, 50 damage, and you search for 2 trainer cards, reveal them and put into your hand. I'm pretty sure Talonflame searched for 2 cards, so bit of a downgrade. I think realistically, we've moved away from a format like the old, when Talonflame was seeing play. I think we've moved away from that kind of format anyway, so I don't think Luxray's really going to see too much play regardless, even though it is a bit of a downgrade. But pretty cool to see it coming back. And to be honest, Talonflame was a really, really unique card, so there could be a deck somewhere out there that actually does manage to slot this in. It's a really, really good overstatted basic if you get to play it as a basic, which is really cool because it means that this probably is going to be sticking around for a couple of turns potentially. And yeah, free retreat and everything. It's got all like the right stuff. I just don't know that we're in a format where this kind of card will see play anyway. I
think it's actually more exciting for the EX era return.
Yes,
when we're going to be evolving into stage 2s. I think that's when a card like this could shine.
Yeah.
I think there's no need for it right now with the amount of consistency that we have in the format. But yeah, it's a great card to have in the game. I always hated it, by the way. I hated its card design because it's Feast or Famine just based on your opening hand simulator, which is a horrible feeling. But we're already playing that with VIP Pass anyway, so we may as well embrace it at this point.
Full VIP Pass for Luxray.
You cannot lose. Right, okay. We've got Stunfisk that for a lightning and 2 colorless does 100 to one of your opponent's Pokemon if they have no support, or if you have no support in your discard pile. There's a bit of a gimmick going on with this Claydol and
there's a few different gimmicks. Yeah, right? There's like 3 different gimmicks within the set, which are all very, very mediocre.
Yeah, we've got
great art on the
amazing Heliolisk and Helioptile. Loving it.
That's brilliant.
That is great.
Yeah, that is great.
They're all useless though.
Yeah.
Zeraora's useless. Okay, so we have a Lecky V and V Max. The regular V doing a 30 and switch for just 1 lightning, and Lightning Wall for lightning 2 colorless, does 100, and during your opponent's next turn, this takes 100 less from attacks. Actually, a bit of an annoying effect here and there. You're not obviously doing a lot of damage, but it can be like a thing that sets you up before you go into your VMAX if you really need to swing energy onto this guy. I don't necessarily think we will be doing that, but it could be annoying for some 1-prize matchups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The real selling point is this VMAX. First of all, you have free retreat, which is really nice. 310 hit points. The reason I mention retreat is because this probably wants to be sitting on your bench most of the time. The attacks of your basic lightning Pokemon do 30 more to your opponent's active Pokemon is the ability that we have here, Transistor. And it does also have a max Thunderstrike attack for lightning and 2 colorless. You do 220, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. So I think the real notable basic lightning stuff will be Raikou and Vikavolt. Is there anything else that I'm really missing here?
I don't think so. I think those two. I think given that those two are kind of the ones that have been the most splashable anyway.
Right. They come to my mind.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones.
The only other 1-prizer is the Zeraora 1-prizer that currently needs choice belt to be able to KO stuff. Now it doesn't, so maybe in that exact deck. But again, you have things like Raikou and stuff, so maybe it's just a 1-prize option. But yeah, I think there's not masses of other lightning types, but those lightning types are pretty good.
Yeah, definitely Vikavolt needs damage mod for sure. We've seen that from Drapion V-Star even coming into the deck list. I'm a bit sus of stage 1 damage buff because again we could just be playing like quick shooting and stuff like that, and these archetypes have not gone towards that. You know, Raikou's had the option for Ludicolo this whole time and hasn't used it and whatnot, and Ludicolo is not that terrible, especially compared to putting some 3 prizes into play and multiple probably, because like one of these isn't enough for either of those decks. You'd probably need to have a thick line of the Alecki. I'm playing a thick line of anything that doesn't attack or draw you cards. It's like a lot of space, I think.
I think that's why the only real hope for this is with Vikavolt, just because you like sort of counteract that by slowing the opponent down.
Yeah.
I think that's the only, in my mind, that's the only real place that we're likely to see this be super successful, I think.
We're seeing Zapdos at the moment, which is only a +10, so I guess that does give you some hope.
Yeah, and even if it's, I mean, I think the deck will still probably play something like a Raikou and a Zeraora or whatever, just for
so
some,
you can pivot
some
into
big
an attack
burst.
mode.
Yeah. I mean, you have the Vikavolt second attack, but you know, that's 3 energy. And
I guess it could even let you cape and still hit 220 with Zap Cannon. So there are some key break points that are relevant.
It's interesting. I still think item lock is something that's been unexplored for a long, long time, and now, like even now, without damage mods, because the lowest HP, or one of the decks in the format has really low HP. Vikavolt is actually, like you say, seeing some amount of play.
Yeah.
It's not been massively successful, but again, we're looking at this current format with only 1 tournament in.
Yeah.
So Vikavolt still could be, in 3 weeks' time, we could look back and think, obviously, this is a great partner for Vikavolt because it's already a well-performing deck. So I think given that Vikavolt, like you say, doesn't have massive damage mods at the moment, but it's kind of okay with that because the deck it's trying to counter doesn't need the damage mods. This could actually push it so that it does counter some of these other decks as well, and all of a sudden we could have some big item lock in the format. We have a lot of ways of drawing cards with supporters as well, so it's never going to be massive. But I think there's a lot of, like, we're in a very item heavy format at the moment. There's a huge amount of ball search, huge amount of consistency there. So I think it could really be a good time for Vikavolt to finally see some play.
Yeah, seems interesting. Definitely one that people will play around with, no doubt. We've got the unknown V and V-Star. I don't think there's much to talk about here. The attack is for 3 colourless, the V-Star power.
Yeah,
it gives you an ability similar to like the Aerodactyl, and we just know that the precedent's there that you can't spend an attack doing nothing, especially on turn 2.
Yeah, not only that, but this isn't an ability that you give yourself. You have to leave a 250 HP Pokemon in the active, and when you lose that, you lose the ability. So I was expecting them to reveal something in this set that made this good, and they just didn't. So
yeah,
I do not know.
We've got a Meditite that can protect itself on the bench, which is a nice little upgrade. I don't know if there's anything good for GLC, but definitely a nice cube card. There are some interesting Medichams out there. And speaking of which, we have another stage 1/1. It has the Opened Chakra ability. If you have exactly 4 cards in hand, this Pokemon's attack cost is 3 colorless less, which takes it down to 0 in the attack cost. So similar to like Mega and Arcanine and all this other stuff. Loads of things in the past have been very strong, playable cards just because they have no attack cost. It allows you to attach elsewhere on your board and do other things whilst representing a presence in the active position and a nice 1-prizer. And the Eager Kick does 80, and if your opponent has a VMAX in play, it does 90 more damage, so pushing your way up to 170, pretty solid number. Obviously, this is a Psychic type, so it can be an instant response into Urshi, and that's another thing that Zoroark now gains.
Yeah.
So Zoroark has Raichu, Medicham, Mightyena, Arcanine,
and only
Slowbro.
Yeah, and only Raichu and Slowbro require energy, so you can probably still play a deck with only 4 DTEs.
Yeah, and get away.
4 twins.
You get away with a lot of type coverage.
Yeah, you're hitting 5 types for weakness now, or 4 types plus Slowbro for closing out the game.
And even when you're not hitting for weakness, 170 is a really good number to be hitting for 2-shotting stuff.
Yeah, and even though we looked to be moving away from a VMAX format, Kyurem has kind of meant that we're still in a VMAX format, which is pretty cool. Plus, it looks like Arceus decks can still very much play VMAX partners.
Yeah.
So it's not completely dead all of the time as well. There's going to be some matchups where even if you're not hitting for weakness, you're still, like you say, hitting that 170, which is great. I still don't think we've seen any kind of support for Zoroark's consistency, which I think will hold all of this.
Oh, Jack!
Hold all of this stuff back, which is a real shame.
Let me dream, will you?
Great art. Can we at least look at the art on this one? The attack's really cool as well, actually. Warning lets you search your deck for a basic Pokemon, but if your opponent's active Pokemon is a V, you search your deck for 5 basic Pokemon. That's a really, really cool effect. How consistent it is, I don't know. There's a lot of non-V Pokemon out there right now, and there's also quite typically a lot of decks are playing non-V Pokemon because they don't want to have a V Pokemon in the active because of how aggressive the format can be. They don't want to go down 2 prizes. So I don't know how consistent it is at getting the additional basics, but pretty cool to see. I like these ways of pushing single prize Pokemon that don't necessarily make V Pokemon bad, they just make single prize Pokemon better. Yeah,
and again, I think you're right. You may as well push stuff like this because I think I still don't play it, even the effect it's at. I think Warding would have to do 2 basics as like
the standard
for this to be a played card.
For sure.
But yeah, we then have a Reuniclus line. The stage 2 has the ability Persistent Cells. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, put this into your hand instead of the discard pile. Discard all cards attached. And for 2 colorless, Cell Fork does 60, and choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and put 3 counters on them. Don't think it's good enough. Don't think it's good enough for anything, but I think it's an interesting cube card because there are some great Reuniclus in the past. So I think that's the only real nod that we have here.
I think it's only good against something like a Lost Box or whatever. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
These 2 prize decks are just gonna very much outlive it.
This guy's not good.
No.
We've got one of the rats.
So yeah, this is the one before. So the one thing I will say about this archetype compared to the Hit 1 archetype is all of the little basics actually have some kind of way of protecting themselves. So we'll get to the Togedemaru in a minute, but it has immunity, it has your opponent can't take any prize if they take a KO on it. The Dene has paralysis, which means your opponent has to find more stuff. So they are at least making your opponent work to take these prizes before you get to that 200 sort of payoff card. It's still not going to mean anything because you're still not doing it. It's still taking 3 turns and then you have to start again. But I do like that they've at least pushed these intermediate pieces, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about this one as well? Arcanine?
Yeah, Arcanine V. Irresistible Force is the ability. As often you like your turn, you may move a fighting energy from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon, and then Rock Bullet does 90 plus 30 more for each fighting energy attached to this Pokemon. So, okay damage. Realistically, it's a really expensive attack cost. It is completely colourless, though, which is really interesting. It could mean, whilst it's expensive, it could at least mean it does at least mean it's splashable here and there, potentially. I don't think there's masses of reasons to be looking at this type right now, even with Arceus around. I think we have enough one-shot in the format, and we have enough ways around Arceus. Arceus is kind of in a bit of a weird place anyway, regardless of like they don't have to worry about the fighting type right now, other than like Reggie's.
Right.
And it's already kind of really on the down low at the moment. Arceus is probably in the worst place it's been in a little while. So I don't think there's masses of reasons to play this kind of card, which is a shame because, you know, Arcanine is great. It would have been great to have another good Arcanine, but yeah. Just not quite good enough, I don't think.
A surprising amount of text for how poor of a card it is.
Yeah.
We have a Claydol that allows you to attach a fighting energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon for the low cost of not having a supporter in your discard pile. So this is part of the gimmicky deck, the no supporter deck. This is the acceleration for it. Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to play a deck with no supporters, so it doesn't really matter.
Sounds bad.
Look at him, though.
He is great.
It's all going to be okay.
That is a brilliant Anorith. And a brilliant Armaldo, to be honest. They have some cool attacks, but again, they're just completely mitigated by the fact that they are fossil Pokemon. Terrakion has immunity, which is pretty cool, but again, not really. We have way too many ways of moving around this Terrakion, and you can't chain it, so you can't even play like a quad Terrakion deck and just try and play Cavern Tackle over and over because you can't even chain it. So
could be a GLC card. I think that's an important effect. Damage is pretty decent, but
for sure.
We've got really great art. They're smashing this.
I love this rock. This might be one of my favourite arts of the set.
Yeah. A Lycanroc that's kind of interesting, I guess, as well. For fighting colourless, 240 minus. This is 80 less for each energy attached to your opponent's active. So it can be this interesting card that like picks off things on benches and whatnot, but we're at stage 1, we're doing so much work, and somehow we need to find a way to gust as well. Maybe an Aerodose or something. Just wanted to see your reaction.
Carry on. Another great art of the set. I didn't know Stone Jonas could do this.
No, nor did I.
I've learned something today.
Jenga.
Yeah, this is brilliant. Again, this is one of these supporterless payoff cards. Great damage, but it's just not worth the effect.
No. Skuntank not doing too much either. Does a 30 to one of your opponent's bench. If they retreated during your opponent's last turn, it does 120 more, so a 150 snipe is still not great, to be honest. It's not like a key number. Even with like a telescopic or something, you're not getting anywhere where you really want to be.
Oh, it's even it's even 120.
Oh, it's
just 120, not 150.
Oh, it's only a 120 snipe. Yeah, that's way worse.
Even worse.
Okay. And then Shrieking Poison, 19. Your opponent's active is now confused and poisons. It's annoying. We have poison buff, but you know.
They've picked some really weird V Pokemon in this set. Skuntank, Chestnut.
All the hits, Jack.
Bizarre.
All the hits.
Another Lipard as well. I feel like we've seen loads of Lipards this Sword and Shield block as well.
That's a great Lipard, to be honest. Look at the artwork on that.
Fast.
The pace of it.
Good Pangoro art as well.
I'm sorry I went past him.
I love
Kamiya's been spotted. Yeah, okay.
Rocket Poison is one of the best attack names in the set. 8 counters is also pretty gross, but yeah, again, you're not going to be playing this.
That is a rocket. Right, what's this Morpeko up to then?
This is another of the... So once you've Dedenade, you can either go Pika for a big snipe or Morpeko for... Pika for a big 200 or Morpeko for 60 on each of the bench. So, you can set this up and try and take multiple prizes at once against things like Sobbles and stuff. But
I like that the opponent has to react to 2 different things at least.
Yeah.
It's not just I know what's coming next or you're passing.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's something.
Yeah.
It's better than the Hitmon combo, I think.
Oh yeah, I think it 100% is.
Yeah.
I actually think it feels like it will be a deck you'll run into on ladder, whereas I don't remember seeing the Hitmon deck ever. But it's not massive. Another Berserker line. How many Meowth Berserker lines have we had in Sword and Shield?
So many. We've had like
so many of them have been pants as well.
Yeah, but look at him.
Good art.
That's the most important thing. We even got a V last set as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
We got a Aron nibbling a wheel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that, but I certainly did.
Love it. Lairon thrashing around.
Thrashing around. Aggron thrashing around.
Counter press. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, terrible. This guy...
More damage to dark types.
Ooh. That's pointless. Acceleration, maybe? No, pointless. Alright, so this is the start of the combo, is it?
Yeah, flip a coin. Sometimes you are not giving away a prize, which again is a nice little bonus, but nowhere near consistent enough.
2 retreat.
Yeah, I I also have no idea why they've given this to retreat.
I can't believe they've done this. Not to the other ones as well, was it?
No. The rest of them are. Yeah, the rest
That's
of them
a grief. Now we need to play
he's a
balloons and
little
stuff.
metal ball, though.
Yeah, but... that's a grief. The deck's bad enough. Just give it one retreat. You know
Give
what I
him
mean?
free retreat.
Give him free retreat. Please.
Don't put that effect on a coin flip. Come
Right,
on.
we're actually getting some relevant cards now.
Yes, here we go. The dragon types, as we've mentioned. Dragonite is a stage 2, but we can not cheat it out, but actually access the attack with the new Regidrago. And the attack we're going to be accessing is Dragon Claw for 80. No, it's Energy Hurricane for 180. Search it for 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like. Really good acceleration. When we get to the Regidrago, you'll see that it has a horrendous attack cost. But this means that you can at least chain them once you get the first one going.
Yes.
So theoretically, you get the first one going, you get an Energy Hurricane off, and hopefully that sets you up for the rest of the game. And then you can start using some of these other really cool Dragon type attacks. I think I'm already starting to think I'm in the camp that it's just going to be too slow. You need to waste this turn doing an Energy Hurricane, which is 180 damage, which is great, but realistically only setting something up, and the kind of attacks you're going to be playing in the deck are going to be one-shot attacks anyway. So it's kind of like
a Trinity Nova, right?
Yeah. So I'm already starting to think this deck's going to be just one turn too slow compared to some of these other archetypes we have out there. But we have ways. We actually have comeback cards in the format now. So maybe if you can get yourself in a stable position, you can come back with some combination of Paths and Roxans and Marnies and stuff or whatever. But yeah, the Dragonite actually has a pretty decent attack, which is cool, and a great art.
Yeah,
It's
this will be integral to the Drago deck if the Drago deck actually gets off the ground and starts working. Don't know if it will, but
pretty sure we have better Dragonites in GLC though.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is way too expensive.
There's some very good Dragonite cards.
Yeah, accelerators, support, searches, all that stuff. But what was I going to say? Just on Drake. Yeah, this is essentially the Solgaleo GX that Mew had to use to accelerate at times.
Very true.
This is the counterpart for the Drago.
Yeah,
basically.
Sure. Makes me hate it less.
This is Noiva not doing much. It can knock out a Radiant.
I really don't know why they've done this.
Why have you done this?
You get to take one prize.
Jack, it's so Zoroark doesn't have to tech Manaphy to beat a Greninja. You just simply hunt it instead. Take the KO. See ya.
Clever.
Genius.
7th Echo as well. Bizarre.
7th.
Bizarre.
As many as the 7.
Go for some Regidrago.
All right,
Joe.
Regidrago, 220 hit point Dragon type with 3 retreats and 2 attacks. The first is for a colorless Heavenly Scream. Discard 3 cards on the top of your deck and attach all energy discarded to this Pokemon. So we really are yearning for some acceleration, so I can see myself in a panic situation using this attack.
And some nice discard synergy.
And we love some discard synergy.
Synergy.
It does feed into the theme of the deck, but yeah, nothing too crazy. And then for Grass, Fire, which will be unfortunately a theme of this card, 130, and this does 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon again. Nothing great. And then we have the V-Star, 280 hit points, the number where we want to be, still the 3 retreat cost. And it has the Dragon Dream attack for, again, Grass, Fire, which makes this really awkward to use. We probably need to play like Raihans or Gardenias or some other form of acceleration to do this. But it does have the effect of the attack. Choose the attack from a Dragon-type Pokemon in your discard pile and use it as this attack. So it's extremely versatile. This is similar to Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX in that you can copy the best of all the dragons that we have printed. So Dragonite will certainly be one of them.
Yeah.
So that we can power up our next Drago, as well as doing 180, which is a nice 2-hit KO. We have access to quite a good number of dragons. Like already in the format, there's Goodra and Giratina, which are seeing a lot of play.
Yeah.
Goodra giving yourself some tank ability, really important for a deck that wants to... with such an expensive attack cost, you need to stay on the board for a couple of turns. Giratina giving you 1-hit KO ability is huge. We've got that Duraludon as well in format, which gives you inbuilt wall breaking, so you don't need to play any derpy one-prize Pokemon to get through Miltank or any other annoying answers. We've got some interesting basic dragon type stuff as well. We've got Flygon, which can hit 320 into VMAX Pokemon. We've got Garchomp that can do a 220 snipe. Am I missing anything else big?
No, I think those
are the big ones.
I think those are the five or six big ones.
So yeah, one hit KO ability, tank ability, acceleration, wall breaking, plus stable damage.
Yeah.
Like it does. You have the plethora of things. You just have to be able to discard them, and have to be able to power up this guy to get it working. Hopefully, helping you in that mission is the Legacy Star V-Star power, which actually do rate quite highly. Once during a turn, you may discard 7 cards from the top of your deck, and then choose up to 2 cards from your discard pile, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So it's similar to a Misty's Wrath effect, which is a very, very old card. The good news is it can be anything that's already in your discard pile.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be from the top 7. So you can already have Ultra Balled away something important, knowing that you can get this back at a later date. So you can bank a boss or a supporter or whatever else you want to put there, knowing that that can be a piece of your puzzle, whilst also filtering 7 cards out of your deck, and hopefully you're going to hit some of your Dragon-type Pokemon so you can choose to attack with them. So I think this is really important. I actually think it's huge for Gardenia as well, as a supporter that we might have to play in the deck.
Yeah.
Because it can get you some of the pieces of the puzzle. It can get you a Grass and a Gardenia. Plus the draw is so bad on Gardenia, right? Right?
Yeah.
So important to be able to do that. So this is going to be huge. There is a random element to it, which is, obviously worse than Starbirth or whatever. But it's going to help the deck a lot actually attack on turn 2.
Yeah.
Which without this ability, it's going to be really rough.
Yeah, this like you said, this deck I think completely lives or dies on whether you can be attacking turn 2 with that Dragonite attack. If you can, I think the deck actually seems really solid. It's got great options, and because it's all discard based, and once you've got your 2 Regidrago set up, you don't care about things like Marnie Path. You don't care about basically anything else. You're just closing out the game, which is fantastic. The issue will be how consistent you can get the engine and the the acceleration. So yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing. We're gonna have some trial runs of it this weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to find an early build of Regidrago that actually gets consistent. Because it would be, I actually really liked Mewtwo when it was back in the
for sure.
Back in the format, so it would be cool. And this is a really nice way of doing it. Mewtwo and Mew are always the ones that are copying stuff. So this is a really cool way of kind of having that attack. But also, we didn't have dragons for like a year and a half. This is a great way of saying we are. This is the dragon type. We have these crazy attack costs, and this is a way you can use them all. So I really hope this card is good. I'm currently just theory mon-wise in the camp of I don't think this is going to be strong enough.
Tier fun, I think.
But I am very, very hopeful that we're wrong this time.
In the best case scenario, it's like an Arceus that then converts into having way better attacks. Because there's a point when Trinity Nova falls off, but this won't fall off because you have a bigger plan in mind for the future turns.
Yeah.
Which is promising, I guess.
It's just that, none of the lists I've seen so far have...
You've only seen my list.
No, I've been anywhere near close to inspiring. So, I'm hoping it works out.
All right, Taurus can hit 180 in GLC. Just saying. Bong. Although I'm pretty sure every Snorlax can do that anyway.
Yeah.
We've got Lugia, which we're much more excited about.
Yeah.
Jack's already talked about this one, so we'll just briefly go over it. Discard a card from hand if you do draw 3. Not a bad little thing to go for if you're bricking. 130 and discard any stadium in play for 4 colourless. Nothing too impactful here. But the V-Star has, firstly, this really important ability that helps it get going. Assemble Star allows you to choose up to 2 colourless Pokemon without a rule box from your discard pile and put them directly onto your bench. So we're cheating the fossil mechanic, which is awful, to actually get Archeops into play. Ideally, we get 2 of them into play. There's possibilities that you play like Big Barrel as well, just in case you want to go like 1-1 or something. But for the most part, it's going to be just grab 2 Archeops.
I think so.
So you can get this expensive attack cost of Storm Dive for 4 colourless, powered up all in a turn really nicely. And you do 220, and you may discard a stadium in play. Really nice effect to make sure that you're dictating the stadium wall, which is really nice. You're not too concerned about any stadium sort of sticking in play that could be detrimental to you. And that 220 can be augmented in a few different ways. You can power it up with powerful colourless. We can use the V Guard energy as well from the same set it's going to be in, which is huge. We do have DTE, we have Capture that you can take advantage of. It really makes me think of like a Blissey deck where you get to select the very best special colourless energy and bung it all into the same list. You can play your Lucky and your Gift energies and stuff because you can tutor them out with Archeops. So that's really cool. I really like what they've gone for here. Yeah. So it's a bit of a mishmash between Vikabulu, because it's pulling stuff out of the deck, as well as Blissey.
Yeah.
And that just sounds like good, clean fun for the whole family.
I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. And yeah, I think the Blissey comparison is actually really big. But the difference is, whilst Blissey is a basic, this gets aggressive way quicker than Blissey.
Oh yeah.
And one of Blissey's downsides is that it can sometimes be a little bit too far behind before it gets into these big damage ranges to be able to catch up and take prizes. And then you lose everything once you've lost that first Blissey, so you kind of have to rebuild. Whereas Archeops rebuilds for you, so you can very easily then build up a second Lugia after your first Lugia's gone down and still keep up that pressure. So yeah, it's like a Blissey, like you say, requires a little bit more setup in the first couple of turns, just getting things into the discard, blah blah blah. But then for the rest of the game, you have a way more consistent damage output, and I think Blissey would really appreciate that, to be honest. So yeah, I think this is a potentially a really, really nice upgrade. And I love, the other thing I love is, the one thing I love about Blissey, like you say, is being able to play all these really cool special energy that otherwise would not get anywhere near decks. And this is, I really love that we've got now another deck, potentially 2 decks in format, if Blissey sticks around, to really try some of these special energy that really typically wouldn't ever see play. So yeah, really exciting stuff.
And Archeops, it can accelerate, we'll look at it in a moment, to other things as well, like other interesting colourless stuff. Like this could play a Blissey, actually, and you double Archeops to a Blissey, and then like after a Lugia's been knocked out and you've lost all your powerfuls, you can put 4 energy onto a Blissey with Archeops and then just reattach those powerfuls and whatnot. So or reattach that guard energy. It lets you play lots of like important one-off special energy. And yoink them all back, which is cool. Shaman's not doing too much, but here is the Archeops just for confirmation. You can search your deck for up to 2 special energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Bonkers effect. This is really, really bonkers. Like, they've limited it well by being a fossil, so it's unusable in every other deck than Lugia. But the effect is bananas. It's so good, and it can do enough in to get through like Miltanks if it has to attack and whatnot, and it has enough hit points to sort of fight that fight. So it means that the Lugia deck doesn't have to get too wonky. It's going to be like a nice enough neat 60. You just have to commit to binning these off as quickly as possible, find 2 of them by turn 2 and throw them into the bin. Just like Zoroark has to bin Gengars, now it's Lugia binning Archeops, essentially. And we're just cheating that evolution, which is really cool. They've found a way to find stage 2s put into decks, and it's all because you're cheating the mechanic of evolution every time. Which is grim.
You might not like stage 2 formats, Joe, but at least you get to. At least now we can play them without having to play the the mechanic.
Oh yeah. I way prefer them like this.
As basics.
Cheat them in, yes. Cheat them as basics. Alright, we have a Braviary. This could be nice in GLC, possibly. A sprinkle of counters on stuff.
It's a lot of... Yeah, it's a lot of counters for free, which again, like you mentioned with the Medicham, it's just nice being able to have an attack whilst also representing a threat somewhere else, because Eerie Cry is enough counters that, realistically, if they attack the energy instead... You're probably taking, because it's an evolution-based format, you could definitely potentially be taking multiple prizes. With that Eerie Cry, if you get 2 rounds of it, which is pretty cool. There's already some great like Porygons that have devolution as well for colourless, so it could be a pretty cool.
A new angle for colourless? Let's go. You just do one spinner attack or something stupid like that does a 10 spread.
They're slowly getting rid of all the control cards from colourless, so there must be a new way to play it soon.
Other than just big Snorlax, which is the other archetype.
Rinse and repeat Snorlax.
Gumshoe's not doing too much. We've got the boy rounding it out. Just the perfect end to a perfect video, Jack.
The final card of the Sword and Shield block is
look at him.
Monkey Show Oranguru.
Choose a supporter card from your opponent's discard pile and use it as the effect of this attack. Probably not good. Cubable, maybe. I think this could be cubable.
Maybe. Yeah.
110 hit points, 70 for 3. Cubable. Love it. I get to see this artwork over and over again in cube.
Yeah.
My favourite. All right, that rounds things out. So for standard, we like Lugia. We think it's probably around well, I don't want to say anything yet, but probably like at least a tier 2 deck, I think, is where I'm thinking.
I think so.
Drago has to impress us still. I think the ideas are there. It's just how often you can make those ideas a reality.
Yeah.
We want to try out some Aleki Vika.
Yeah, I've actually been a little bit more convinced on Reggie Aleki Vika after talking about it a bit more. I think the format is just right for some item lock right now. So that might be enough to just carry Aleki through. And yeah, this is
the real story, Zoroark.
Yeah.
Jack, please.
End the video, Joe.
Jack. See ya.